Discovering possibilities and potential with passion every day. This is a TPPN production.
Your ability to understand how it works, to understand how it works.
Q-tape. Possibilities network. And 3, 2, 1. Live from Indianapolis, Indiana, this is the iPad Possibilities Show. With your host, Tim Chapman.
Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 65, The Trunk. Well, welcome. We're here today for the live episode. This is episode 65, and I'm here today with John Finnan. How are you doing tonight, John?
Good, Tim. How are you?
Doing great. Long, busy day, but made it to the end of the day, and glad to get started here with some interesting stories. I think I've been using Twitter more to find some kind of unique stories that I don't think people are talking about as much. So, lots of good stuff tonight.
Very good.
So, without further ado, I wanted to just mention the Thursday episode next week. I had an opportunity to speak with Thomas, who runs GTI Spindle, and he also runs what is just now starting up, Gadget Freeway. It's a store with lots of different iPad-related stuff and technology-related stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. So check out gadgetfreeway.com, and we'll talk to him on the Thursday show this week. So with that being said, let's just get on to the news of the week, and this will be kind of what we're doing this week. It's called The Trunk, in reference to Evernote and their trunk announcements, and that's kind of the focus topic at the very end. I'm not sure how much time we'll spend there because we've got so much news this week. The first one I wanted to share is a tweet I saw about basically universities, in particular Duke University, trying out iPads for field research next year. And I'm just going to recap some of what they're going to be using it for. So the primary goal of this is to equip students with a tool set that allows them to make the most of their time in the field. So the scenario here is the iPad is a time-saving device from what they used to be using, because it can be used as calculation for graphing and presentations, and they can use that all in the field. I'm trying to understand. I'm not exactly a field researcher, but it basically will save them time, and this will kind of get rid of a lot of the things they were using in the past. And I think they're going to have 8 iPads next semester for their pilot project, and I think it'll be a great experiment as more universities try this out. What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I think that this is very interesting, and I've been kind of expecting something like this actually since really first started thinking about after the iPad announcement what it can be used for. It's interesting that this is the Duke Global Health Institute, and they're putting it out there with their master's courses. And having done a little work in the field in my undergraduate degree, which was in geography, it's certainly a tool that I think will be very useful. There's not a lot of apps there, and that was one of the things that this article was pointing out, was that they were trying to determine what apps and accessories will really be needed to leverage the iPad. But the gist of it is that it's a great tool set. It's more than an electronic clipboard. It's potentially a very, very useful tool for gathering data. It's far superior to what we've had in the past with cell phones and tiny PDAs. And, you can actually do some practical work on it in the field as well. So you don't have to necessarily be taking around a laptop as well as, whatever you were going to use to collect data in the field. So I think it's pretty phenomenal. And will be more and more a very useful tool for that kind of research out in the field.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's kind of cool to mention that that the iPad is actually a durable device. This is going to be used in, a dusty environment, and the 10-hour battery life and all of these things play into why they chose the iPad, and they're going to be using the 3G iPad so they can use it, on internet away from your indoor setting. So it should be very interesting. I'm going to be interested to see what other universities do this kind of thing, and that should be great. With that said, kind of a small little update was pushed out a couple days ago, OS 3.2.1, and most of all, it fixes that Wi-Fi bug that some people experienced. I didn't quite have that bug. And then Bing search and some copy and paste functionality added to PDF documents, and a little bit, some other things. Video output from the VGA adapter is improved, I guess. So have you had a chance to install this, John?
I have not, and I bet there's one thing on some of our listeners' minds, because we do have a little bit of a following, I think, of the jailbreaking community. Do you know, Tim? Does this impact jailbreaks in any way?
Yeah, that's kind of the reason I haven't updated yet. There currently is no jailbreak for 3.2.1, and I'm not sure how easy the downgrade is. I know on the 3G it'd probably be a harder downgrade if they do some baseband updates, with that kind of stuff. I know with phones that's kind of an issue. So I haven't installed this yet. I'm tempted to install it on my Wi-Fi model, but I might wait till 4.0. I'm not sure, or at least until the jailbreak gets updated.
Yeah, there's obviously if you're having Wi-Fi connectivity issues, it makes a lot of sense to upgrade. But I don't know that this brings anything that makes me clamor to upgrade to it. I didn't hear anything about fixing any of the things in iBooks that we were things. So I guess iBooks is still not been updated with this to include some of those features that had been touted that we didn't get. The annotation feature is the big one I'm looking for. But
right. And iBooks traditionally it's been out for a couple months, but traditionally it's a standalone app, so it's not part of the firmware, which is, I think that's why they did it, so you can update iBooks more frequently and all those things like that. And I haven't,
right, yeah, definitely. But it's something that sometimes Apple does, is even standalone apps gets updated when they update the OS.
Sure.
So.
And I haven't had problems with that video output at all when I've been using it, so I guess it's better, so that's cool. If any of our listeners have updated it and want to share your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you, because I may be waiting some time until that jailbreak is released. So, with that said, another kind of cool little thing I ran across on Twitter. That's where I'm getting a lot of these stories from. Twitter has been a great source as I've just been browsing around there. But a YouTube video was showing at the Encore Music Festival in Cheltenham, I can't say the name, had a pianist, James Rode, use the iPad for his score. So that was kind of an interesting video I took a glance at. It was great performance. Did you have a chance to watch that?
No, I didn't, but certainly a unique thing to be aware of. That's very cool.
Yep, definitely. And from there, kind of in the academic world once again, and this it sort of relates to the iPad, and that is Nook Study and the Blackboard Nook integration. I get all the Barnes & Noble emails, that they send their investors or whatever, and I came across this. Sounds interesting. Did you have a chance to see what it's all involved with this, or do you want me to do the recap, John?
Please do the recap. I haven't really delved into it much yet.
Well, Nook Study initially will be used on Mac and Windows machines with their applications. I didn't mention iPad stuff yet, and it will give students and academic institutions access to a huge selection of textbooks at a discounted price. I believe it was either 40 or 60% off, and you'll be able to interact with students and professors, and I guess have a great, architecture for taking notes, searching through your books, and having really customized software for students. So you'll have lecture notes integrated, syllabuses, slides, images, trade books and other documents outside of textbooks all in one place. So their goal here is to create that digital learning library wherever you go. And they're also integrating with Blackboard, which they announced a few days after they announced the original one. So Blackboard's kind of a big tool, which I personally hate. That I think it's used wrong all the time by teachers. But with that said, I think this might be a good way to have Blackboard integrate here. So Blackboard will be integrated into this, basically adding the ability to have more study aids, test prepping, periodicals, and things like that. So it sounds like a nice move and something that the Nook can do to kind of differentiate itself from the Kindle and other platforms.
Yeah, very, very interesting that that they're going this route with the Nook. So it's all good from an educational standpoint, I think. So.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see kind of the feedback from students, because a lot of them, they love the paper. They love getting their hands on the paper and writing notes and all those kinds of things. And if they can solve that thing about writing notes and everything, I think it could be a big winner. And I really don't think it'll be a big winner until they add iPad support, quite honestly, because I don't think, students carry on their laptops a lot, but what are your thoughts here? Do they need to add iPad support or some other device besides laptops and desktops?
Well, more and more schools have been looking at the laptop, and the laptop is still, if you get something decent and something, somewhat sturdy, it's an expensive thing. I think the iPad, or dare I say, its future competitors, will really have an impact in particularly in primary school. In secondary school, where that price point's very, very important. And so this kind of stuff, integration with Blackboard, which is getting fairly prevalent out there, is just all good stuff, all taking us to the electronic classroom.
Yeah, definitely. And with iPads being used more and more, there's now rumors of a different version of the iPad. Actually, two different versions. A 5.6 inch and a 7 inch iPad. And the rumor here is from Mac Rumors, and they say these will be OLED, which I say fake. I don't see Apple using OLED anytime soon. They've actually said OLED is a terrible technology, and that's why we went with this LCD, what do they call it? The way where you can watch it at any angle.
IPS, I think.
IPS, yep.
Right.
And the rumor says these new 5.6 and 7-inch iPads will be targeted directly at the ebook market, and that will be what separates it from the 10-inch model that we have today. I think we may see some smaller iPads, but I don't think they'll be OLED. I think they'll be the Retina display. That seems obvious, right?
Well, this is kind of an interesting thing. I personally think that there is a market for something a little smaller, while still being, quite a bit larger than a phone, an iPhone.
I agree, and I think there's also a market for a larger iPad too.
Yeah, there potentially is, but the rumor all comes about from seems to be display manufacturers. So if they're saying that they are getting orders from OLED screens, I can't dismiss that's what they're saying Apple orders, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be used in an iPad. We don't know if Apple's got something else up its sleeve that needs a 5.5 inch or 7 inch screen. So there could be many things that could be coming out. They might be an iPad, might be something in a different market entirely. So it's just a rumor.
Yeah,
just a rumor.
It is. It'd be interesting if they made a glass OLED trackpad that's wireless or something.
Which has certainly, there rumors of a very sophisticated trackpad type of devices have certainly circulated recently. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So enough for the rumor mill. We've got some new products that are coming out. I came across this one again on Twitter. It's called Stylus. So I played with the Dadgy stylus and the Pogo stylus, and both are good. Both have their flaws as well. And this one is from a jeweler. Andrew Goss has created this the stylus here that you're able to look through where you're actually touching, so you can actually see the screen at all times. There's no interference there, and makes precision better. So seems interesting, and it should be available in I think a couple months here. So
yeah, this was rather interesting, and I'm not sure that it's necessarily better than anything we have so far. It kind of looks sturdier than the Dagi stylus, but from what you've told me about the Dagi's pretty sturdy. It's not going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, this one's certainly more stylish. More stylish stylus.
It looks like, I don't know, it reminds me of like fountain pens where you have this very long instrument, and it looks very fancy. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's good to see that there's this stuff going on, and with some of the stuff that we've talked about in the past, you mentioned, was it last week or the week before? You mentioned the software that allows you to take hand notes and not have your palm interfere with that. So all this stuff is really coming together, I think. It's really kind of showing that even though the iPad is a lockdown device from Apple, that there's still a lot of creative solutions that can come along for it.
Yep, agreed. And yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see all these different styluses, because I think there's potential there. I think there's even potential for a dock connector type stylus, which knows exactly when that pen's touching and doesn't get any fingerprint input at all because of that. So beyond software. So yeah, that's kind of the end of the news and things I've discovered during the week. Now we move on to kind of the focus topic of the week, and that is Evernote and their trunk announcement. Now, John, you were at this event, and can you share some thoughts about how busy was the room and who all was there and what was announced?
Sure. Actually, there was, in my understanding, some press announcements earlier in the day, but I went to the event that was scheduled in the evening by Evernote. It was mostly a cocktail reception. Had a number of interesting demos by some of the companies. A lot of them are featured on the trunk page on the Evernote site. Egret list. I watched a demo, talked with the developer of that. That's an interesting to-do manager. Works very well with Evernote. iPhone right now, hopefully iPad in the near future. Voice to Note from Dial to Do was a very interesting voice application that put those voice notes transcribed into Evernote for you. And
yeah, it sounded interesting when I was reading about it. Basically, you just have this service that you pay for, and anytime you get a voice note inside Evernote, it automatically finds those and transcribes them for you, right?
Yeah.
Is that basically the premise?
Well, what you get is a phone number. You get a phone number that you call and record a message, and then that message gets not only transcribed, but also the audio of that message gets uploaded to your Evernote account. So you have.
Okay. I was under the impression that service would go through all your notes and just find them.
I don't believe so. I believe the main thing is really that whole issue of the initial input being a verbal input into Evernote and taggable. So there are keywords that you can put in that will tag the notes as well, which is makes it very useful.
Okay, very cool.
Yep. So some of the other things I saw there, Nitro PDF Reader for our Windows listeners. They are, hopefully, they say they are very close to thinking seriously about a Mac version, but they don't have a Mac version. But Nitro PDF Reader looked like a very, very nice PDF reader, and now has the ability to work with Evernote, and it is free. PDF Pen from Smile on my Mac.
Oh yeah.
Great application, and great for annotating PDFs. Again, it's Mac, and actually this past week in my work, I needed the ability to annotate PDFs, and I used this, and it was useful, but it wasn't as useful as being able to do it with my finger on my iPad.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and that's what we're still waiting for. It's kind of a shame that we have this, what do you call it, sandbox between apps, because currently you can't open something in another app and save it right back in it, which is what Evernote's doing on the desktop. I could currently, before the trunk announcement, open up a PDF from Evernote into preview and edit it, and it just save it, and it saves back to Evernote. And I wish the iPad had that functionality.
Right. And what it said to me was that really, I mean, there is a great deal of promise in this functionality on the iPad, and currently, and I'd love to hear if our listeners have any feedback on this, but currently I haven't found a great application to use. I found a couple of applications that do this on the iPad, but not a great one. So, there's still room there for some clever developer to give us what we really need to annotate PDFs on the iPad.
Yeah, I agree. And most of the time, I just end up emailing different projects I work on the iPad directly into my Evernote account, and that works pretty well. But it's still kind of a kludgy way to do it. But I think the future of Trunk is going to be pretty big. I think we're just at the beginning here, and I think OS 5 for the iPad, I think we'll see some more ability to integrate effectively.
Right. A couple other things I saw was Seismic is an interesting little application that works with Twitter and Facebook and gets stuff into Evernote. So Evernote's really working on this all things to all people kind of thing with Trunk, and I think that's really good for them as a company.
The new storage location that just everything you create goes in there.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that's good for them as a company, and it's good for us as consumers because it gives us a lot of choice.
Yeah, it certainly does. And that's something I always look for in an app when I search, does this work with Evernote well? That's one of my criteria for judging an app, if it can email stuff out easily or what's the export functionality.
Right. The last thing I did see there, and really the only iPad thing that was around, is ZentoPad Planner Note. So this is a kind of a drafting, drawing kind of tool. It's nicely done. It's connects to Evernote, which was obviously why it was there. So a nice tool. I don't know that it's necessarily any better than any of the other ones, but if you want something that can shoot these things up into Evernote for you, then that's pretty powerful thing. So.
Does it do more than a simple, sending it off once? Are you able to, access all of your notes and draw stuff into them, or how does it work?
Unfortunately, I didn't. This guy was pretty busy, and I didn't get very far with his demo, but. It seemed like a very capable thing. I don't know really how effective it was going back and forth. I think the Evernote capabilities were recently put in, and so they may not be fully baked yet.
Okay. And they did not have any kind of beta versions of Evernote for iPad there by any chance?
Nothing I saw, no.
Okay.
That was like... number one thing I kept looking around, like, where's the beta iPad Evernote, but no. So
okay. Did you have a chance to meet Phil or any of the top guys?
No, I didn't. There were a lot of people there. It was a very crowded kind of cocktail reception, and and so I did not get to meet any of the Evernote guys, but looked like there were a lot of people excited about what was going on in the trunk and where it was going.
Yeah, so. Definitely. I came across it. I was initially put off as like, oh, we've already had this kind of stuff, but I see where they're going, and I think it'll be huge in the long run, and I'm glad they're finally recognizing that the trunk, yeah, it's a big thing, that third-party people really make Evernote what it is, you know?
Yeah, definitely, and I think, it's going to really, I think, take off from here and really become, something that a lot of developers are going to play with it. I haven't looked at the APIs or anything, but I got the impression that that where they're focusing things has made it much easier for developers to work with, and so consequently, it'll be something to include on a whole lot more apps.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I had a question for you. If you were able to create a trunk app that would work well on the iPad, what would it be?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It would probably be related to a planning or project management kind of app.
Yeah.
To really leverage, the storage of Evernote, but some native power of a very strong planning, project management kind of tool.
Yeah, I'd love to see OmniFocus and Evernote play along nicely.
Yeah.
So I think, we've kind of talked about the trunk, I think, enough for today. And as more iPad-related things evolve with it, we'll, of course, update everyone on that. And then, we mentioned OmniFocus. It's in its final phases. It's feature locked, and they're just bug testing it. Any day now, it'll be in the App Store.
Any day now. Well, it's just, even the great developers at OmniFocus have the whole issue of slipping delivery dates. So,
at least I'm confident it'll be a good, solid release when 1.0 is released. So, yeah, it'll be exciting when it comes out. So, with that said, let's move on to our picks of the week. Do you want to start today, John?
Sure. A couple of them that I have. One is Calcbot, and I've been looking for a while for a good calculator for the iPad, the thing that for some reason Apple did not include, and came across. I've tried probably 3 or 4 other ones, and I heard about Calcbot on Twitter actually, and it's not expensive. I think it's $199 or something like that. It's done by a group called TapBots in conjunction or partnership with Tap. So some good folks behind it, and it's a nice calculator. It works in both portrait, landscape. It has a paper tape. It remembers stuff even if you're not using the paper tape. You can go back to old calculations. And it's kind of interesting in that it actually just shows you the whole calculation, not just the results. You can do rounding for currency, variety of different things. So it's if you're looking for a calculator, I would say definitely take a look at this thing. It's well thought out.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the same guys that made Pastebot, right?
Right. So and I just a great calculator. It's probably
it's on sale
the best thing
right now for 99 cents. I guess $1.99 is the regular price.
Right. So definitely something to look at. And you can also send the tape as email, so that's kind of cool. So a good little calculator.
Very cool. Any other picks that you found this week?
Yeah, I may have mentioned this one before, and I don't know if I did or not, but it's something I've had for a while, and it was not too long ago updated, and this was one of those things that was my go-to thing on the iPad when I needed to mock up some or to annotate some PDFs, and it's called SmartNote, and it's if I remember correctly, I believe this was done by a couple guys in college or a guy in college, and it was interesting when it started. It's gotten better. Its interface leaves a little bit to be desired, in my opinion, just because. One of the things is because as soon as you get into a PDF, it's like in drawing mode, and so you wipe your finger across the screen and you're going to get a highlight or something like that. And actually, to turn the page, you have to go up to the top menu bar and click the arrows, which was a little less intuitive and a little kind of getting used to. That I kind of would like to see the PDF and be able to swipe across and turn the page.
Sure.
And then go into an editing mode when I'm ready to edit it. But it's still, in my experience, one of the better products to annotate PDFs on the iPad. Good power where you can highlight things. You can put down arbitrary shapes and things to outline something or call attention to something. You can put it in text. You can even record audio with it.
And how's the export functionality of the app?
I exported when I first got the app, and I have not exported recently. But I think it's pretty good. It will export as a PDF. It will export or do an email page, and of course, it does the documents through iTunes, so you can get them that way as well. So,
okay, very cool.
A few ways. Again, like I say, not necessarily the perfect app, but a pretty good one for if you need that kind of capability on the iPad.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I've been playing with, as many people know, Yuzu. I discovered a couple days ago, and I want to just give those here for the live show just a little demonstration of what it's all about. So this is Yuzu. You just click begin, and I'm not sure how well this will portray on the video feed here, because I'm not sure how real time this is, but you have basically 10 different ways of interacting with Yuzu, and each finger you add does something different, and you can probably see how you can just get memorized just by this very intimate interaction with just light. It's pretty phenomenal, and I just been having so much fun with it since I discovered it a couple days ago.
That is really something. I had not seen that yet.
I saw it on Twitter, and I picked it up. And you can lose a good 10-30 minutes just. Sorry.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but I think it was in the 70s or maybe the 80s, they several different government agencies passed laws against some of the fantastic light displays of things that they would put into bars, because people who had a few would get mesmerized by these light displays, and so I'm wondering if Yuzu is going to be outlawed in bars.
And yeah, I'm just blown away with it. I think you have music set to it, and you can have a performance of Yuzu on the big screen once they add video export, and that'd be fantastic. So yeah, all my thoughts of Yuzu are on the Saturday show, the last episode. I go on, I think, for 15 minutes discussing on why Yuzu is amazing. So yeah, check that episode out if you haven't listened to it. It's a fantastic app. It's only 99 cents right now for, I think, until our next major update is when it'll go up in price. So just fantastic little app. And can't recommend it enough. If you have an iPad, this is one of those demo apps when you give someone an iPad. So, with that said, if you want to leave feedback, you can do that by emailing us at iPadPossibilities@gmail.com or calling into 209-542-iPad. And just call in or email in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whatever we talked about today. And where can people find you, John?
Oh, what? I'm sorry. I was downloading Yuzu. You can reach me at look for me at jfinnan on Twitter, and it's probably the best place.
Okay, awesome. And if you want to support the show, just go to tppn.tv and click on the iPad Possibilities Premium page, and all the information's there. And you can also find the app in the iTunes iPhone App Store. It's the iPad Possibilities Podcast app, and you'll get the shows a day early. So that's how you can support this show. And with that said, you've been listening to Tim and John on the iPad Possibilities Podcast on tppn.tv. And I will talk to everyone again for the Wednesday, Thursday show with Thomas of GTI Spindle. Have a great week.